Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for the JOJOLands Chapter 15 review, a very intense and stand-filled chapter this month with a bit of nostalgia from previous parts that introduces multiple new stands with some familiar abilities, and by the end brings us that much closer to the truth behind this enemy group HOWLER and the land of Hawaii. So jumping right into things, starting with the cover page, we have the $100 Jodio buck, which I think is cool. It's a playful design, with Jodio Franklin hitting that Clint Eastwood pose with the part's name and Araki's worked into the design as well. And then we have the chapter title, which is Big Mouth Strikes Again, which is the official name of Charming Man's stand. Finally, a reveal on that. And that is two Smiths reference in one character, very based Araki, and some excellent picks. Personally, some of my favorite musical references in the entire series right here, all in one character. Amazing. And turning the page, we pick up right where we left off at the end of the last chapter, with Usagi dying outside of the land registry office, where Charmy is now doing chest compressions, but almost immediately suggests that they should just leave him behind and that this couldn't possibly be his stand attack, saying, oh, this guy's just a junkie, this is all because of some drugs he's on, he's just having a reaction, let's leave him behind, he's a burden. Completely ignoring the rock-like scales that popped up all over his neck and the fact that they're literally on a heist trying to get intel on an evil corporation, and it's likely that someone could be watching over their documents, but I guess that's all just kind of irrelevant to him. So without Charmy's help, it's up to Usagi and Dragona to work together and be able to save him, who used the Mate Kudasai to summon a straw that they jam into the wound to create a pathway to clear out the lungs and lets Usagi breathe again, while quickly rushing him back to the van. Where inside we get this pretty cool panel transition of actually going into the straw and seeing what's going on inside Usagi's lungs, where we then see this stand attacking him. So this stand-in ability and design is very reminiscent of the Lovers from Stardust Crusaders, where the stand user Steely Dan had an extremely small colony type stand that could attack from within. So it definitely feels like an intentional retreading of the idea, although now that Araki has kind of scrapped the concept of stands being able to shrink at will, which was really only used in that fight, now we get to see things play out differently. And this new stand, which isn't named in this chapter, so leave your predictions down below in the comments, does also carry that insect parasite vibe, but is also based on a scuba diver, I guess, wearing a helmet and having tubes that connect to a backpack. So we see the stand causing some chaos inside the body, going after certain arteries and organs, although it's not attacking at random or just trying to kill the person as soon as possible. Rather, it's meticulously creating illnesses that could appear as natural occurrences, which is what tricked Charmy, saying this isn't a stand attack, it's just a pulmonary edema. So anyone who ends up dead from this stand could be written off as some pre-existing condition as to not draw any suspicion. So whoever the stand belongs to, it's actually a very clever and low-key attack method that very well could be looked over by even a stand user. Although when we see the stand, so does Usagi, which is an interesting detail for the Mate Kudasai, as whatever the stand creates, like the straw, are still linked to the stand, represented by Usagi's motif, and this allows him to feel and see through these objects like he would his own stand. As he mentions to the game, he's being attacked by a stand, literally he saw it inside him, and Charmy, the certified hater, is just like, nah, you're lying, you're on drugs, you're a junkie, you're making this up right now.
But from what I can tell, you are just a drug addict. You are a pathetic junkie. Too stupid.
So at this point, it's kind of frustrating how reluctant Charmy is to believe Usagi, and takes up quite a bit of time as well. Literally half the chapter is spent going back and forth about whether or not they're even being attacked, which on a first read is like, okay, this conflict is feeling pretty forced, although as we'll see, it does end up working with the overall flow of the chapter, as while Usagi and Charmy are arguing, Jodio cuts through the noise and takes leadership, saying they really should consider the possibilities. So instead of things going super smooth from the start, we see more of the group's dynamic and an establishment of roles here, with Jodio being that leadership, as Jodio starts tracing back their steps and trying to come to a logical conclusion, a very Giorno style move, especially this panel right here. I just see so much Giorno in Jodio with his pose and words. So with that direction, the gang are able to think back to what happened inside and who might be attacking them, although they're cut off by the sound of an ambulance rushing towards the building, revealing that the receptionist that showed them the documents, one of our possible suspects, is also being attacked with the same symptoms. Rocky scales running up her neck and throwing up a thick sludge. So we can finally all get on the same page here and work together, as Jodio comes to the conclusion that this must be an automatic pursuit type stand. Our favorite type of stand, right guys? And it's just sort of a trap that was set up in the documents themselves, like a landmine attacking anyone who tried to investigate HOWLER's precious land documents. Confirming one of the theories I presented in last month's review of this attack being a defense mechanism set up by HOWLER, which also parallels Black Sabbath from part 5 in a way away, which was another automatic pursuit type stand that attached itself to a target and was the first minor villain we fought from Passione, besides Bruno's introduction. So now with the stand attack confirmed and Charmy looking quite foolish, he makes up for his mistake by showing Usagi respect, and even saying he was pretty impressed with the guts he showed with the whole straw move and stabbing himself, which reminds me a bit of early Abakio, who didn't trust Giorno until he proved himself, maybe a callback there. So with this newfound respect, Charming Man uses his stand to try and save his life, where we finally get a name reveal. Big Mouth strikes again, love that name, and we get a first-hand look at his ability, which in this chapter is literally just Dr. Wu from JOJOLands with a bit more control over the fragments. Although, as we've seen in the past, Charmy can also change his appearance and can manifest objects and create like decoy objects, so there is a lot more going on with this ability than just the fragments, so let's just call it advanced fragmenting, something like that. And it is also an integrated type stand with no physical appearance yet. Rather, it manifests as what Charmy calls a skin condition that he's had since he was a child. And using Big Mouth strikes again, he's able to break down his eyeball and send the fragments into the straw and then reform inside Usagi to take a look around, which he literally could have done 25 pages ago if he didn't just hate Usagi, but I guess that's what we call development. So inside we are able to track down this stand as Charmy and Usagi work together using the Mate Kudasai to create a flashlight and Big Mouth to track down and attack the stand, which Charmy remarks is a dull and slow stand, so there's no way the user is actually controlling this thing, so they're probably nowhere near the building. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the automatic pursuit type stand. I find the structure of these arcs pretty repetitive. It either boils down to the characters running away or just tanking damage with no way to fight back unless we track down the user or they come to us. So hopefully this arc doesn't play out that way and the game actually does have a fair fight where there's some twist where the user might be nearby, because despite being automatic, it's a pretty overpowered stand. It's able to attack multiple people at once, as we can assume another one of these little guys is inside the receptionist, as well as when Charmy's fragments make contact with the stand, it spreads this cancerous poison to his face because he's still linked to his fragments. And it's Jodio that calls out that what's forming here is actually cancer, and I'm not sure if he literally means that the stand has the ability to give you cancer. That would be pretty crazy, or it's just something that's killing cells and spreading, and he's just being hyperbolic maybe, as I doubt all of these characters are just going to die, because as we see next, Dragona is also passed out, foaming from the mouth. God, I feel like Dragona is just the punching bag of the part so far. Every time there's an opportunity to, have something bad happen to her, I feel like it does. So in just this chapter, that's 4 characters the stand has managed to nearly kill. So very deadly ability and serious introduction to Howler, showing how meticulous they are and careful. So if the activation for the stand was to manifest inside anyone who looked at or came close to the land documents, it makes sense that Usagi and the worker who were the closest are being hit first, and now Dragona, who was still there but not looking as intently, is having a bit of a delayed reaction. And that brings us to the last page of the chapter, where we hear some chatting from the bystanders talking about the lady who worked at the office, saying she's actually the daughter of a congressman who is going after the illegal activities regarding water sources on Howler's land. So either Howler was aware of this lady and her father and decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or it's just part of the stand to go after anyone who pursues the truth of Howler or means them harm. Like a Wonder of You calamity type activation, so even just the relation to her father was enough to trigger a response. But it's a pretty big coincidence that this woman just so happened to work at the land registry office while her father was also pursuing legal action against their land. So maybe they had their own scheme they were pulling we just don't know about yet. And this politician type character could maybe be an ally one day if he's also going after Howler. Politician, maybe descendant of Funny Valentine in some way, but now he's helping out the main cast. That would be dope. So clearly the Howler company is up to no good, and the people of Hawaii are catching on, something to do with a monopoly of land ownership and water sources around the island. As remember, back in chapter 12, we still have the mystery of the flowing water on Hualalai and in the lava tubes, which must be connected to whatever Howler's cooking up or trying to control. And I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg for what Araki has in store for us, and I'm itching to find out more. But for now, it looks like Jodio and Paco will have to step up and shine in the next chapter to save the game and take out this first member of Howler. So thank you all so much for watching my JoJoLands Chapter 15 review. Please drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you all real soon in a new video. Until then, I'm out. Peace.